What is good, y'all? Welcome back to the Herro. Welcome back to a brand new video. We are here. We are back with a brand new video for you guys, and we're going to be talking about the Miami Heat's projected rotation for the 2024-2025 NBA season. So the Miami Heat yesterday basically finalized their roster by re-signing Haywood Highsmith on a 2-year, $11 million contract. Pretty good value for him. Apparently he was getting interest from teams like the Bucks and the Suns. He decided to turn those offers down. Now, I don't think they were offering as much money as we were, but he came back to the organization that developed him. I think this is a fair deal, $5.5 million a year. Both years are guaranteed. That is completely fine with me. It's a lot better than overpaying Caleb Martin. So I'm happy that we got Haywood Highsmith back. We desperately needed his perimeter defense after losing DeLon Wright and Caleb Martin into free agency. So our roster is pretty much complete now. I know people are gonna be like, oh, we have only 14 people. We have one more spot left to fill. Unfortunately, they cannot sign anybody else without going over the second apron. They're so close. I think they're less than $2 million away from being over the second apron. So they are very close to being at that apron. So because of that, this is going to be the roster. They're going to go with 14 players into the season. They're going to be essentially running it back. Now, that term is going to bring a lot of heat on the front office of running it back. And even me, I wanted to see some changes this offseason, but you know what? It doesn't even matter at this point. The team is the team. We got to get behind them. We got to figure out what is the best way to maximize the team that we have right now, because whether we like it or not, this is going to be the team. The 14 players that we have signed right now is going to be the 14 players that we carry on into this upcoming season. Now, there are potentially trades that could be made. There's still 2 players or 3 players that I think are, likely to be traded in Zach LaVine, Brandon Ingram, and Lauri Markkanen, and none of those guys have been traded yet. So if the Heat can find themselves in any of those guys as, sweepstakes, then, maybe there'll be some shakeup with this roster. But as a free agency and signings and offseason work, as far as negotiating contracts with players, the work is done here. It's really just about, if you can get your foot in the door for any of these trade negotiations with the Jazz, the Pelicans, depending on what happens with Brandon Ingram's extension, and the Bulls with Zach LaVine. If you want Zach LaVine, then you could talk about improving your team that route. That's really the only way we have to improve our team. We can make a couple of trades. You have to hope that the teams like our package that we have, maybe try to get a third or fourth team in to take on some contracts or send some more picks. So that is the only way that we can really improve this team, for the next year. When we get into the next year's offseason, after the finals are done, and we get into, the draft, and after all of that is done, then we can talk about, what we can sign with the cap space we have next year. But right now, the free agency period is basically done for the Heat. We're going to be talking about the roster itself, the strengths of the roster, the weaknesses, where I think this Heat team can improve from last season. It's basically the same team with a couple of pieces added on, a couple of pieces subtracted. You bring in the 2 rookies, obviously, Ware and Larson. You obviously bring in Alec Burks. You lose DeLon Wright. You lose Haywood Highsmith. And I'm not Haywood Highsmith, Caleb Martin. And apart from that, it's the same team. So we're going to talk about it. I do want to say, another thing that I do want to say is that we do not have our first round pick this year. Our first round pick is actually lottery protected. So I guess we still have it, but if it lands outside the lottery, we will not be able to get the pick, because that pick will go to OKC. So that is another thing. We do not have our first round pick if it goes outside of the lottery. So if we're not in the lottery, if we're not if we're not in the top 8, the bottom 8, then we're going to be in the we're not going to have our pick. So basically, if we're in the playoffs, we're not getting our pick back. That's what that means. That is another thing to watch out for, because this draft class is really, really stacked. I mean, as somebody who watches college basketball a lot, I can tell you guys right now that I've never seen a draft class this stacked in a long time. Like, you have to go back probably close to a decade. Maybe 2011 was a pretty good draft. 2012 was pretty good. But I'm just talking about the prospects coming out. Now, obviously, in 2017, 2018, you had guys becoming better players than what they were projected to be. But I'm talking about prospect rankings, like what they were projected to be. I mean, 2025 is crazy. Like, you can argue that the 6th or 7th prospect in the 2025 draft class would have been the number 1 prospect in this draft class that we just had. So that draft is absolutely stacked. So I would want the Heat to get themselves in the mix in that draft, whether it's getting our pick back, whether it is, trading for someone else's 2025 first round pick. I would just want to find a way that the Heat can get in this, 2025 draft class that is so powerful from top to bottom. So that's one more thing I wanted to add on. But yeah, just talking about the roster in general. Again, same team. We're banking on a lot of things to go right for us. Like over the past 2 seasons, it's been well known that we have had the worst luck with injuries. I don't even want to say if it's luck or not, because it might be just a pattern, but we've had the worst injury bug across the league. Maybe the Memphis Grizzlies, but apart from them, I think it's really just the Miami Heat. Like, they have been so banged up over the past 2 seasons, guys missing time left and right, and we really have not had the opportunity to play our stars together. It's always been somebody is missing here, somebody's missing there. I don't know how many times we played a lineup of Terry, Jimmy, Tyler, and Bam together. It has to be less than 10, because I did not see that lineup too many times out there last season. So, listen, that is going to be the biggest thing they're going to bank on, is that they're going to try to make sure that we do not get injured. Now, I don't know how they're going to do that, because injuries are something that sometimes they just happen. Like, usually, injuries are like, you can't really control injuries happening. Like, if a player is getting injured, it means that something or the other happened in a game, in a practice, which you can't really, do much about. Now, what they can do maybe is lessen the load of their practices and lessen the wear and tear that they're putting on their bodies, because Heat practices are always known to be really competitive. Like, they practice really hard. They practice a lot harder than the actual games that they play. So maybe because of that, even like I've seen Andre Iguodala talk about how hard they practice, it takes a toll on some of the players. So maybe just dial back on some of those practices, or maybe not practice, them that hard too many times in a week. Maybe that can, help preserve their bodies come playoff time. But yeah, apart from that, I'm not really sure what they can do about the injuries. Some of these players, it's like they have reputations of getting hurt, like Jimmy and Tyler. Like, they seem to always miss time throughout the season. So, obviously you have your freak injuries here and there, and you have, some of the injuries can be that can be limited by practicing a little, not as hard. But some of the injuries you just can't do anything about. Like, it's just unfortunate. That's just part of the game. But the other thing they're going to be banking on is jumps from the younger players. So Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Khalil Ware, Tyler Herro, I classify still in that category, because I have yet to see him take that jump that we've all wanted to see from him. He's always been the same type of player, for 3 years now, since his 2022 season, which was really good, his 6th Man of the Year season. I haven't really seen that much improvement in his game. Maybe his stats or something like that might have been a little better here in some aspects. But as far as his game and skill set is concerned, I've seen the same weaknesses in his game that I've seen in 2022. That he cannot handle blitzes or traps. His ball handling is subpar. His defense needs a lot of work. His ability to create shots off the dribble. He seems to, need a screen a lot of the time to get his shot off. I want to see that, those problems solved for him. I want to see him work on his handle. I think his handle is his biggest weakness on the offensive end. That really boils down to everything. That, makes his shot creation ability not as, good, because his handle is not that great. So if your handle is not developed, you're not going to be able to create shots for yourself off the dribble. So that directly is correlated to his ball handling ability, and his ball handling ability is also directly correlated to the fact that he can be, vulnerable to blitzes and traps and pressure when playing physical defenders. And I also want to see him finish at the rim more and draw more fouls. So all that is really entirely dependent on his ball handling ability on the offensive end, and obviously on the defensive end, he needs a lot of work. So those two things, that's why I put Tyler in that category, because I'm still yet to see him take that leap or that jump that we have all wanted to, see him take for a few years now. So yeah, he is a player that I'm going to be trying to see if he can, surprise people. And then, not many people are high on Tyler Herro this season. Even at least in the years past, I mean, I knew opposing fans and GMs were not that high on him, but we had guys in the fan base. A lot of fans were really, banking on Tyler to take that leap. And after it's been a few years now, it's 2024. He hasn't really helped himself by doing what he's done on social media. Like, the image on Tyler Herro is not that high. Like the perspective of everybody, like Heat fans, NBA fans, like GMs, like apart from the organization itself, the Heat organization, nobody really seems to be that high on Tyler Herro. So this is the perfect opportunity for him to go and prove these people wrong, including myself. Even I was talking about how we should trade him this offseason, and it didn't happen. But maybe he can come out and just prove everybody wrong that he's that guy. Again, that's a big if, but that's really what we're banking on with him. With Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, it's just about consistency, man. It's just about building off on what they did last season. Jaime hit a point after he came back from his injury for a stretch about a month or two where he just wasn't really a factor. And that's the rookie wall. A lot of rookies go through that, and a lot of rookies also go through a sophomore slump, in year two. And we don't want to see Jaime Jaquez go through that. We want to see him build off of his excellent rookie season. He has to add more. He has to add more to his game. I mean, again, not saying he didn't have a good season, because he did, but there was points in that season where people were figuring out his footwork when he was spinning right or spinning left, and people were able to predict what he was going to do before. When he was doing it for a consistent amount of time, his moves became predictable. So we want to see him develop that. I think it's a really good opportunity for him because he's currently scrimmaging with the USA team. He's part of the select team, so he's scrimmaging with the Olympic team right now. I think he's going to learn a lot. He's down there with a bunch of greats. He can work on his game really, really well. I'm super excited about that. I think he can have a big season if he's healthy. And he was relatively healthy. He missed a week or two, but apart from that, he was pretty much available for the whole season. So that's good. I think he played. I think him and Bam were the only two people who played over 70 games. So yeah, I think Jaime Jaquez just needs to work on his consistency. Same with Nikola Jovic. I'm not sure if Nikola Jovic is going to play for Team Serbia. I know he's on the roster, but I don't know if he's fully healthy because I know he was in a boot a couple of weeks ago. But if he does play, it'll be a really good experience for him. Maybe somebody can let me know if he's playing or not. I haven't been really keeping up with Team Serbia news, but I just think he needs to just work on his overall game. I think his shooting ability is obviously unquestionably really nice. And I think he took strides. Obviously, his ball handling, playmaking was something that was big coming out of Mega Basket. But we want to see him work on his finishing. We want to see him work on his, building his strength, absorbing more contact at that power forward position, guarding better. And then Khalil Ware, just want to see him play his role. We don't have to make it too complicated for him. I know a lot of people are really excited about Khalil Ware after his game the other day where he dropped 26 and 11. But I don't think it's realistic to expect Khalil Ware to come out and start next to Bam Adebayo. It's going to take some time. He's just a rookie, so you want to make sure you ease him in. I like what the Mavericks did with Derek Lively. Even though we were able to tell that Derek Lively was the better player between him and Daniel Gafford, they still brought Derek Lively off the bench for his rookie season. They didn't, start him unless they really had to. Now, if Khalil Ware is able to play really well next to Bam, then you can go ahead and start him at some point. But I would bring him off the bench right now. Just have him work on his game, just develop his game. He doesn't have to go out and start chucking up threes all of a sudden. Like, I know he can shoot them, but he never shot them with volume at Indiana. He only shot about 1 or 2 a game. So he shot a good percentage at Indiana, but even in Summer League, he didn't shoot. He didn't make any threes. So even though he can do that, and that's a part of his game that the Heat would like for him to expand as his career grows, and he can become a really good stretch big. His primary aspect that a lot of people are forgetting is that he's a really good lob threat, and that's why a lot of people, like when you saw Cole Swider talking about how he's so similar to Derek Lively, and that's why a lot of people, like 2 years ago when Khalil Ware was with Oregon, the debate was Derek Lively or Khalil Ware, and I was on Team Khalil Ware at that time. He had a disappointing season with Oregon, but the reason was because they were really similar players. Khalil Ware obviously has added the 3 to his game, but we don't want to see him do too much his rookie season. We just want to see him play his role and play his role well. He can rock out in the games that we need him to, but primarily just be a really good backup center to Bam Adebayo. He'll probably be the best one that we've had backing up Bam Adebayo since, you know, we've had Bam full-time starter. So I'm really excited about Khalil Ware just being a solid backup center. And I do think that Pelle Larsson can play a pretty good role this season as well, because he just does all the little things, the unnoticed type of stuff. He hustles, he guards, he can handle the ball really well. He wasn't able to show the ball handling that much this season because he was playing alongside Caleb Love in the Arizona backcourt, and Caleb Love was, you know, he's a guy who just loves to handle the ball, loves his shots. So we saw Pelle Larsson take kind of a back seat this season with Arizona, but he's definitely capable of handling the ball if we need him to. Like, off the bench, if you need a secondary ball handler, I know we lack point guard depth, which is why the one thing that I'm like pretty confused about that the Heat did this offseason is why we signed Thomas Bryant. I mean, already drafting Khalil Ware and re-signing Kevin Love. I didn't really think it was a big necessity to go out and sign a third backup center, but I mean, they did that anyway. Instead of signing another backup point guard that we really needed, because to me, Alec Burks is more of a 2. But you definitely need some ball handling off the bench. That's like the biggest question mark, is who's going to be the ball handler off the bench. And if Pelle Larsson is able to show that he can do it in practice and scrimmages and stuff like that, maybe Spo will trust him and throw him out there, you know, because we really do lack. I'm not sure if Josh Richardson is the guy to trust there, or Alec Burks, if he's capable of playing that role off the bench as a backup point guard. Pelle Larsson is definitely a guy who has good playmaking chops. He can throw lobs. He's a good ball handler. He's comfortable with the ball in his hands. And he's a veteran. He's not your typical rookie. He's 23 years old. I think he's pretty seasoned. He's able to, you know, make the right reads. And I do want to see him, you know, being used by Spo. Now, we'll see what happens. Again, this is kind of like a soft preview of the season. It's not. I don't have like a full-time, like, you know, who's going to be the bench unit, like who's going to run with. I know the starters are probably going to be Terry, Tyler, Jimmy, Jovic, and Bam. But the bench is like a huge, like, I'm not sure who's going to play. There's a lot of guys that they can put out there, like Jay Rich, Alec Burks, Duncan, Pelle Larsson, Jaime, Haywood Highsmith, Khalil Ware. Like, there's about 6 or 7 guys that they can really throw out there. So it's really just matchup and situational based. With the starting unit, lastly, before we wrap up this video, I want the starting lineup to be playing cohesively well. Last season, whenever Terry Rozier and Tyler Herro shared the floor together, it never really clicked. And I think that was because they both want the ball in their hands, and they both, you know, want to, you know, handle the ball. But I think in order for this team to play, you know, at their fullest potential, that starting unit to play at its fullest potential, you need Tyler Herro to be an off-the-ball player. I mean, he can obviously create on the ball, you know, for others, and he can obviously, you know, he obviously wants to play with the ball in his hands. But for his sake and for the team's sake, I think he will maximize his, you know, his opportunity and his role on this team if he just plays his role as an off-the-ball mover and a shooter and a floor spacer, as opposed to another ball handler. Because you have Terry Rozier, who is undoubtedly a better player on the ball to me than Tyler, and undoubtedly a worse player off the ball to me than Tyler. So you have to play to this team's strengths. Terry Rozier, apart from Jimmy Butler, is your best player with the ball in his hands. You want the ball to be in his hands or Jimmy's hands. You want Tyler and Jovic to space, Tyler to move and be like a Klay Thompson. I'm not saying he's going to play like prime Klay, relax. I'm saying that he should play the similar role to a Klay Thompson or even a Duncan that has played on this in the starting lineup in the finals a couple years ago, or in 2020 when Duncan was moving alongside Goran Dragic. You want Tyler to play that same type of role, and you want Jovic to be a nice floor spacer as well. Maybe I mean, I know they can all handle the ball, but you don't want too many chefs in the kitchen. You want Bam to do Bam things. I mean, Bam and Jimmy are the 2 captains of the team, the 2 best players, the 2 leaders. Jimmy just needs to be engaged. I just need to see Jimmy come out motivated. I want to see him hungry. I mean, he's determined to have a big year before his contract year. I want to see him just play at an elite level, man. I want to see Jimmy do Jimmy things. I want to just see him with that hunger and energy. I don't want to see him take games off or play lackadaisical anymore. I mean, we desperately need a good regular season. We need him to stay healthy. We need him to play well. Bam Adebayo, he's going to have an incredible Olympics. I'm so happy for him. That's the cornerstone of this franchise. Just got an extension. I want to see him do more of the same. And I think we have a competitive roster. I'm not sure how competitive it'll be in this East, which has gotten better. But I think we can still be a competitive team if we're able to be healthy for play to our fullest potential. So that's my prediction. That's my kind of takeaways and 2 cents about this roster. Let me know what your guys' takeaways are in the comment section below. And we'll wrap it up, man. See y'all later as always. Peace.